and welcome back to our programme, The New Normal. COVID-19 is still dominating news cycles around the world, but on this show we want to take you behind the headlines and bring you some of the human stories from the fight against COVID-19, as well as some of the other big issues in the world this week. In this episode, medical tourism in the era of Corona and statues of colonial leaders. Is it now time they fall? First to Cameroon, where coronavirus cases are on the rise. Hospitals are under pressure, so much so that the national measles vaccination program has been put on pause. And many Cameroonians simply don't trust the healthcare system, as our reporter Marcel Amoko has been finding out.
At a children's hospital in Yaoundé, kids are being vaccinated. Just 4 parents showed up in hospital to protect their children against measles, a highly contagious disease which causes a rash eruption on the face and upper neck. It is another epidemic that has struck Cameroon for over 6 months. However, this morning, there are fewer parents than usual.
Ils se disent qu'en allant à l'hôpital, on va aller contacter coronavirus. Beaucoup donc restent chez eux et préfèrent garder les enfants en retard de vaccination. Bonjour Yasmine.
Yasmine's mother has avoided hospital since the outbreak of COVID-19. Today, she's finally accepted to take her daughter for a routine checkup following her anti-measles treatment.
Je me suis rendu compte que ça ne vaut pas la peine de rester garder l'enfant à la maison sans faire son vaccin.
Across the city, at the expanded program on immunization headquarters, Dr. Giselle Efuba is updating her colleagues on the ongoing double health crisis via video conference.
68% des cas de 9 à 59 mois, qui est la tranche la plus représentée.
Figures are on the rise since February. There are already more than 1,300 cases with 13 deaths due to a drop in children's immunization. To keep the epidemic from getting worse, doctors are trying to reassure parents.
Nous avons récemment rédigé des directives de la continuité de la vaccination en contexte Covid pour que les parents et les enfants qui viennent en formation sanitaire pour rechercher la vaccination se sentent en sécurité, qu'ils sachent qu'arrivés chez nous, ils pourront avoir le vaccin et ne pas être en contact forcément avec la maladie.
A government plan is underway to stem the spread of the measles outbreak, which has already affected 8 out of the 10 regions in Cameroon.
If there is limited trust in the healthcare system in Cameroon, quite the opposite in Turkey. This is at least according to the Turkish government. For several years now, Turkey has been a major destination for medical tourism from countries like Iraq and Azerbaijan. And now, because of the country's relative success in fighting COVID, it's hoping to persuade more people to head there for treatment, expanding an already lucrative industry. Shona Bhattacharya has the full story.
This is one of the front lines in the fight against the coronavirus in Turkey.
The first wave isn't over yet, but all countries are preparing for a second wave in the autumn. So, of course, we will be expecting, if this happens, then we have the capacity to serve all the patients.
The intensive care unit at Cerrahpaşa Hospital and the Faculty of Medicine now holds only 7 patients. But even when the caseload was at its peak, the unit was never overwhelmed. That's partly because in Turkey, all patients are hospitalized as soon as they have symptoms.
The doors of the hospitals are open to everybody. There is no limit. If you have any problem, any kind of suspicion, you can go to the hospital. It's the main step, I believe.
Doctors also have more say over the treatments they administer.
We are free of choice, but mainly the Ministry of Health of Turkey gave us the main guidelines. And there are different treatments at the moment, as you know. One of them is hydroxychloroquine treatment, gave us very good results.
This hospital is now hoping to cash in on its coronavirus recovery rate by catering to more international patients and developing its medical tourism services with, for example, online consultations.
I believe in the future, most of Our patient visits will be online. Just go in to the website, do the payment, you talk to your doctor. And that doctor is a professor, one of the well-known universities of Turkey.
Turkey is one of the OECD countries that invested the most in its healthcare sectors these last few years, with an eye on foreign patients. Medical tourism brought in close to €1.5 billion in 2018.
Across the Mediterranean coast from Turkey lies Lebanon, a country currently in the grips of multiple crises. Coronavirus is one, of course, but also a serious economic downturn. Food prices are rising almost every week, and among those most at risk are Lebanon's migrant workers, maids, women from East Africa and the Philippines, sometimes thought of as modern-day slaves. Now, because of the economic crisis, some of those women are being repatriated back to Lebanon. With their story, here's Ethel Binet and Diego Sanchez.
Dozens of domestic workers line up outside the Ethiopian embassy in Beirut, desperately seeking help. Wendy lost her job as a maid. Her employer bought her a flight ticket to Ethiopia, but she can't fly out as the international airport has been shut down since March. Lebanon is in the midst of a deep economic crisis exacerbated by the coronavirus pandemic. Hundreds of housekeepers and nannies like Weni have been dismissed, often without money or passport. Many end up on the street. Weni managed to find a room which she shares with other women in similar situations. All of them have been working under a sponsorship system called kafala, which puts workers at the mercy of their employers. Lebanon is home to over 250,000 migrant domestic workers. Most of them are from Ethiopia, Sri Lanka and the Philippines. Recruitment agencies send them to people's homes.
هاي أول مرة بتصير عنا إنه بنات ما يندفع لهم معاشاتهم الشهرية حتى بالحروب الأهلية والحروب اللي كانت بلبنان على طول كان على طول الخدم يوصل لهم العاملات يوصل لهم حقوقهم كاملة.
Since the start of the health crisis, only 650 Ethiopian workers have been repatriated from Lebanon.
Here in front of France's National Assembly sits Jean-Baptiste Colbert, a man who helped write the Code Noir, or the Black Code, that formalized slavery in France's African colonies. Today, a chorus of voices is demanding his statue comes down. And that cry is being echoed not just in European capitals today, but in parts of Africa as well. Our reporters in South Africa have been talking to protesters there.
Water must fall! Water must fall! All colonial symbols must fall!
That's Maria, and right here is Jan, and that is wife and husband, you know. And in South Africa right now, we don't have that privilege of, you know, unit families because of colonialism, because of apartheid. Families were broken apart with the migrant labor system. I don't only get that feeling of sadness that they broke down our families, I also get a feeling of anger.
Back to Europe then, and cities grappling with their colonial pasts. Should statues stay up as a reminder of our dark history, or should they be simply removed and destroyed? Well, in Berlin, a possible middle ground. Leaders from Prussian kings to Lenin no longer up in the center of the city, but behind glass in some of the city's museums. Could that be a model for the rest of Europe? Nick Spicer has been finding out.
300 years of dictatorship told by statues fallen into disgrace. From the first Prussian kings to the regime of communist East Germany, this one-of-a-kind museum in Berlin exhibits monuments which really ended up in the dustbin of history.
Das ist einfach dieses Ding, in Deutschland gab es dann ja immer wieder einen Regimewechsel. Und immer wenn ein Regimewechsel war, mussten dann eben die Symbole des vorherigen Regimes wieder aus der Öffentlichkeit entfernt werden.
German history and its darkest chapters, written in stone. From the Nazi era, a decathlon champion statue by Arno Brecker. It went up for the Olympics in 1936 and came down 60 years later. A little further ahead of Lenin, a leader who fell into disgrace along with the Berlin Wall. It was buried, then dug up to be shown here.
Man kann ihn anfassen, wie gesagt. Es geht darum, dass man eben keine Ehrfurcht mehr davor hat oder keine Angst davor hat, weil hier ein Safe Space sozusagen ist für Streit und Diskussion und davon lebt eine Demokratie.
The space will soon be home to this racist statue from the 1920s, decapitated last week in the south of Berlin.
Ich habe den Hinweis aus der Bevölkerung erhalten, etwa Mitte letzten Jahres. Es sind durchaus hier Menschen vorbeikommen, die sich auch davon beleidigt fühlen.
Karsten Berger fought hard for the museum to take it.
Aus meiner Sicht kann Vandalismus nicht die Lösung sein. Wir können späteren Generationen nur zeigen, dass es Rassismus gab, welche Formen von Rassismus es gab, wenn solche Beispiele da bleiben. Aber die müssen natürlich im entsprechenden Kontext gezeigt werden und nicht im Straßenland.
Another so-called toxic statue that brings a new level of debate to a museum about the past, one with an ever stronger connection to the present.
That's it for this week's episode. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back at the same time next week. And until then, let's leave you with images of protests continuing in cities across the world to demand racial justice, and some vocal groups also demanding that controversial statues fall. Thank you for watching. See you next time.